What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So I'm going to do a quick lunch break update when it comes to the next stimulus package. And so we have a new proposal. So I talked about it yesterday. The Problem Solvers Caucus, they have come up with a proposal, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Now, I don't have all the specifics yet, so I will go over what I have right now. But first off, if you guys could hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We do daily videos and live streams on the weekends. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the Problem Solvers Caucus, so it's 50 members of the House, and they are bipartisan, and they're more moderate when it comes to their beliefs. So they've created this proposal, and you're in a situation when it comes to the House of Representatives, they're all running for re-election, all of them. And so there's some desperation now because it's like getting closer to the election. We don't have another stimulus package. People are upset about that. And so the Problem Solvers Caucus has come together and said, okay, look, we need to have something. We need to present something. And so at least they can go back to their districts. They're going to create this. At least they can go back to their districts and say, hey, look, we created this. We tried to get it passed, but it didn't go anywhere, or it did go somewhere. So that's what they're banking on. Hopefully they're banking on it going somewhere, but if it doesn't, they could at least say we tried to do something. So let's take a look at this proposal. The first thing we're going to look at is the cost. So we're looking at about $1.5 trillion. Now that could go up or down because there's stabilizers in this proposal, which is good. And I think stabilizers should be in this bill. And what a stabilizer does is basically says if the economy's doing good, if we're done with the pandemic, then it could be less than 1.5 trillion. It could be down to 1.3 trillion. Now, if the economy's not doing well and we're still in this pandemic, it can go up as high as $2 trillion. So it gives you some room to work with, and it also gives politicians an incentive to make things better when it comes to the pandemic, when it comes to the economy. If you can make it better, then you don't have to spend as much money. So I think it's all around, it's a good thing. Now, stimulus checks, that's the first thing you guys want to know, right? Stimulus checks, $1,200. Now, I do not have the specifics when it comes to dependents. I don't know if it's going to be $500 per dependent or $1,200 per dependent. That's something we're going to have to find out later. PPP money, there is funding for PPP. There is some form of funding when it comes to food aid, so that's good. There's also $400 million for money for elections, so that's good. $25 billion for mortgage and rental assistance. So this is good. So now you have some assistance instead of just the moratorium. We saw with the eviction moratorium that people, you weren't being forgiven as far as if you owe $1,000 per rent every month, you're not getting that forgiven. It's just carrying over. So if you have the eviction moratorium for 3 months, you're going to owe $3,000 at the end of that eviction moratorium. If you can't pay it, then you can still be evicted. Now looks like there could be some assistance, which would help a lot of people. Now, another thing we want to talk about is the enhanced unemployment. So the enhanced unemployment looks like this: $450 per week. That's for 8 weeks. And then up to $600 for the lost wages, and that'll be for 5 weeks. So basically what they would do is they would adjust it depending on how much money you make. So you're not making more on unemployment than you make in your regular job. So you'd have 8 weeks of $450, and then you would have 5 weeks of the lost wages, so the up to $600. So that's pretty good. That's not bad. Now, we talked a little bit about the triggers. So you do have some triggers, and it's based on the pandemic and the economy. That's how they're looking at that. And so it could be as high as $2 trillion, or it could go down as low as $1.3 trillion, which is, I mean, it pretty much covers everything that they've been discussing, right? When it comes to negotiating, they've been talking about, the Democrats are talking about $2.2 trillion. The Republicans are talking about $1.3 trillion. Steve Mnuchin even said they can go as high as $1.5 trillion. So that kind of covers all that area. So we're all rooting for the economy to get better. We're all rooting for the pandemic to subside, because I think everybody wants to spend the amount that's needed. You don't want to spend too much, and you don't want to spend too little. So I think if you have these stabilizers in there, it will help out when it comes down to it. Okay, now some other things we want to look at. We're looking at $500 billion for state and local funding. So this is good, $500 billion. We know that the Democrats were asking for about $900 billion, and the Republicans were looking more along the lines of adding an additional $150 billion. So it'd be $300 billion if you count the money with the CARES Act. So $500 billion. That sounds like a good number, and that will help all the states, because states are starting to struggle because of the pandemic and all the money that they'd had to issue out for a variety of different things. So that $500 billion, I'm sure, could go a long way with the states. Another thing we want to talk about, $130 billion for schools. So we know in the HEALS Act, the Republicans were asking for $105 billion for schools. The Democrats, they were asking for $100 billion, but now they wanted to increase it just because things have gotten worse in their words. So it now looks like $130 billion is where they've settled. $15 billion for the post office. We know Democrats are asking for $25 billion. Republicans are asking for $10 billion. $15 billion is what's on the table in this proposal. And they also have $100 billion for testing and tracing, as well as vaccine. So that's good. And then the one thing that's not in here is hazard pay. And so I think we've all start to look and understand that hazard pay is not something that's really being discussed by either side at this point. And so the essential workers right now are the ones that are really they're being left out when it comes to these proposals. Everything that we see, with exception of the HEROES Act, the HEROES Act did have hazard pay in there, but we don't see it in any of the other proposals. So that's pretty unfortunate. So now you've heard the good news, and let me tell you a little bit about what's going on when it comes to the House. Okay, so Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, so she's the one that controls everything. So she can call things to the floor if she wants to call things to the floor. Now, this is not her proposal, so there's a good possibility that she might not want to move forward with this. Now, the hope is that she looks at this and she gets some pressure from her House members and they go ahead and put this to the floor. But at this point, she still controls the House. So it doesn't mean that this is automatically going to go up for a vote. So that's one thing. Another thing is this needs to not only get through the House, but it also has to get through the Senate. And there have been a lot of people talking about Nancy Pelosi. She's the one holding everything up. But the reality is the Senate has not been able to approve anything. And so even if this proposal goes through the House, it's still going to have to go through the Senate. If it doesn't get through the Senate, then we're still going to be looking at a stalemate and nothing's going to happen. So just wanted to put that out there to you guys. So that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this proposal. I will do another video later today if we have more significant information when it comes to the proposal. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.